having a look. Champion on now to the bottom lane skimming.
There it is! As you have to stop for a jump, it's all gone. Harry with the culling, but it's just not enough damage. He needs to make a play right now. Oh, they're all low. They're all joined together. That's one, that's two. A double kill for him. A triple. Emperor's divide onto Johnny. Oh my God!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Day 2 of week 2 for the LCO, and I do not know if any day can live up to yesterday, but I really hope that it can, because there was so much action, so many close games. Even the ones we thought should have been, extremely one-sided affairs just came right down to the wire. So let's take a quick look back at how yesterday went.
Power goes on through, the beast jumps on through, looking to try and use the Mega Storm to good effect. They've stolen the Dragon. They have stolen the Dragon. Maybe this could be the turning point for Order. Maybe they bought themselves just enough time. Kills are coming up big time here for Order.
Direwolves composition obviously wants to group up.
Oh! Cupcake is literally smurfing right now with these hooks. Goes for the instant box into Exhaust. Unfortunately, no follow-up right now, but they can harass over the... Whoa! There's the bullet! And there is the super mega death rocket sets. More to your mental comprehension, and that might be one that's being called out and fallen on down. Experience coming to be far too strong. There's the killer instinct. A redemption dropped in their head, but the redemption is actually only found here for Pentanet, because they're the ones that are finding the gold, finding the kill. Uh-oh, don't do it. They're welcoming the Phoenix check. That's a 3-man body slam. Lisa looking for the biggest lullaby of his life right now. 4 members put to sleep. Nocturne can't do anything right now. He can watch from the sidelines and bottom lane as Peace will macro, micro, and do everything and more. They will jump in, they will execute, and they will take you on down.
And what a day it was. And of course, I am Mac. If you haven't seen me before, look, I'm still here. I'm going to be here the whole time, I think. I hope, unless I lose my job again, which hasn't happened yet. But, again, could happen at some point. But I got Jubes and I got Elfish Guy, different face, from Skimmy on the desk with me today. Boys, how are we feeling this fine evening?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah,
Not too bad. Is that all? Is that all we're going with?
Okay, what? You want me to give you a compliment, Juice? I feel like you've been fishing for a few yesterday. I was watching the show, so...
He does. He would like some, yes.
I did not fish for a compliment. All I was going to say is you should be saying that it's fantastic, you're excited, what a day, you get to share the broadcast with me. Not so much Mac, but, sorry, Mac.
That's all right. Look, I've worked plenty of times with Jordan, and he's definitely thrown me under the bus much harder than that in the past. But look, before we get into what's happening in the LCO today, apparently over in the LCS Academy League, C9 actually won that. And in the top 2 teams, there was 5 OS players.
Yeah, there was. And so, obviously we're pointing out Cloud9 Academy this week. And special shout out to Schönfire, King, and Isles. Isles most recently played in the OPL, which was last year. Did well with Legacy, won that, went to Worlds, had one of the best performances that we've had from an Oceanic team. King and Schönfire are 2 players that have been over there for quite some time now, but they've really paved the way, being, the first 2 players to kind of go over for, other Oceanic players to come on through. And, they've done justice to our region, right? A lot of teams are now picking up Oceanic players, obviously with the import rule that's been lifted. But, obviously, you have to perform, and these players in particular are doing that. 3 Oceanic players on a roster were able to win 7 matches, lose 2 in the academy, and now they're going to the next phase of what is, I believe, called Proving Grounds. Could be wrong. Maybe I should have done a little more research. At the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But no. So yeah, super hyped with them, and I'm excited to see if they can just break through now into the LCS, because we have a bunch of players that have done so.
Yeah, and from what I saw as well, I think Team Liquid Academy came second, also going 7 for 2. So, unfortunately, looks like they had a bit of a rough end to the season. I think it might have been head-to-head or something as the tiebreak there, and that had Hayri and Ayla on that team as well. So
they needed a couple more Oceanic players.
Yeah, that was it. That
Maybe
was
Juice.
the key. I'm pretty sure they
could have been you in a different world.
Yeah.
What would have happened if you would have won that final?
Spawn at the helm of that team as well. So very unfortunate that they didn't manage to get across the line, because it technically would have been 2 players and a coach getting to the finals, which isn't quite as exciting as, I guess, 3 players. But look, that'll lead us into today. So let's see what we have coming up for day 2 of week 2 here in LCO. Well, not what we have coming up, rather, where everyone's standing after yesterday's games. And, of course, at the top there, you got Peace and Pentanet still both undefeated. And I think they're going to be going head-to-head next week, which is going to be a banger of a match. Of course, there at 3rd, you got Order and Chiefs. 5th, you've got Direwolves and Gravitas, both on 1 and 2. And then Mammoth and Legacy still winless which, I don't know, would you have still expected that from both Mammoth and Legacy here, Juice?
You know, yes and no. You know, Legacy, I thought maybe they'd be able to pinch a game here or there, especially because their schedule was, you know, it wasn't the easiest, but, you know, it wasn't the hardest. Mammoth, obviously a bit of a rough time finding their feet in the league. Lots of new players, lots of new faces, so somewhat expected. But, you know, now's probably their time to win a game against Gravitas if they're going to win one. So, yeah, excited to see what Mammoth can pull out tonight.
Yeah, well, hopefully it goes very well for them. And look, speaking of tonight, we can have a look at the games that are going to be coming up very shortly. So, here, first game of the night, Order and Direwolves going to be going head-to-head. Second game at 7 p.m, Peace and Legacy. And look, that's going to be rough because Peace is 3-0, Legacy 0-3. Going to be interesting to see how that one goes. Gravitas and Mammoth, of course, a big battle there at 8 p.m, and then at 9 p.m, ooh, Pentanet and Chiefs. Another game which could get very spicy.
Yeah, indeed. Definitely a few good games there. I'm particularly looking forward to the Chiefs and Pentanet game. I thought yesterday Pentanet struggled a little bit more than I might have expected them to against Legacy, obviously allowing some pocket picks to go through as well. So I do wonder if maybe Chiefs is going to be the one to topple Pentanet, because I've been fairly impressed by what I've seen, and they've gone for a few sort of out there compositions, obviously liking the Heimerdinger quite a bit. So for me, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that Chiefs and Pentanet game. Always nice to have the quote-unquote best game of the night right at the end. It keeps everyone interested and keeps everyone excited to stick around.
Oh, look, Jubes, you forgot to send me your address, so I've still got your Peace Hype Train ticket here. Do you still want that today? You know, going up against Legacy, are you still on that Peace Hype Train?
We'll make the decision after the game, depending on what they leave open. You know, even if they win and then they do ban away the Katarina, then for me that's a little bit insecure. Especially when you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. I'd let Incursio have his let them all have their champs, because we're talking. And you know how sometimes the trains have got those silent carriages. Hopefully Incursio is the one that's able to just enforce that silence.
Of course. And look, even though Incursio is that mid laner, we are going to have a quick look at the top lane for the key picks today. So far, so good. We've got Nar, Gragas, Camille, and Gangplank as the key picks for that top lane.
I actually think Gragas is kind of underutilized in this region in particular. It's not something that's picked as a flex in terms of, you know, putting it into top lane when you have it that, and it might look like a support pick or somewhere else. But it's definitely one of like the safest blinds, and it really allows you to have a hard out weak side of the map, if you will. And it's still going to be relevant. It's still going to do what Gragas does in team fights. And there's some top laners who I'd like to see pick that up, just because it gives their team, you know, another avenue to play volatility somewhere else. But yeah, the rest of the picks, right? Camille, you standard. We expect to see that, as well as the Nar. Gangplank's one I'm surprised of. I think to play that champion, you know, to the highest level, it is maybe one of the hardest champs in League of Legends to play, you know, optimally, chaining barrels, using them at the right times. So yeah, keen to see more of those champions. I think they're fun, and it's always good to watch when they're in the meta.
Well, hopefully we can get to see them picked today. But before we get into the first matchup of today, we're going to see what you guys at home got up to last night, got up to today, what crazy memes you made on Twitter and where you sent them. And of course, you sent them to #LCO, at LCO. And it looks like first tweet is actually from the big man, Maximize himself. And he wrote, Rutro Scoob, clipping Mammoth and Gravitas on their own poll. Mammoth only with 33% of the votes on the predictions. So, ooh, that's a little bit rough there. What are your thoughts on that one, Elfish?
I mean, it's always Maximize, isn't it? He's always finding a way to sort of sneak his way into this broadcast. I'm not sure if he's fast becoming a fan favorite. Perhaps not a fan favorite within the Mammoth organization. But yeah, that's one of those tweets that can backfire. Hopefully, Mammoth can put the money where the mouth is, though. I think this is definitely a winnable matchup for them today. So a 66-33 split. I'm not sure. I personally am leaning towards Gravitas a little bit, but I definitely think it's a winnable game for Mammoth. So hoping to see them get their first win on the board.
And look, another tweet coming in from yesterday, which is a great follow-up from the one currently on your screen, is Threshy. So he's managed to put this one down with Chiefs putting Order in the bin. Maximizer's face there, going straight down into the dumpster. Oh my, that one's gotta hurt.
I do like that one. I think that's a good little bit of counterplay there from Threshy, especially when you put yourself out there. But hey, Maximize took it on the chin. What I want to see him do is I want to see him bounce back next week, or next week, rather. I want to see him bounce back this week, come out with another banger, another meme, another bit of bants, because you can't go hiding once this happens, right? You need to embrace it. You need to own it. If anything, I'd love to see Maximize cosplay as a bin. Just come out, cosplay as a bin, get a few kills on some
Really
of those
own
Rift. Yeah, just own it. That's what I did in my career. I got started to get called bad, so then I played bad. So at the end of the day, I'm just a man of the people.
There you go. I think it would be pretty cool if, he did come out wearing a trash bag one day for one of the interviews and just owned it, took it straight on the chest. And of course, if you want to get involved in the conversation for later on in the show, because, we can put it up as many times as possible, hashtag LCO, @LCO. Make sure that you guys make some memes, throw them in, and we'll put them up on your screens. And now that brings us to match number 1 for the day. It is going to be Order taking on Direwolves. And boy, I'm pumped for this one. Direwolves had finally getting a win on the board yesterday, and Order, maybe not as they'd planned, got their first loss. And this is a chance for them to maybe go meet the teams with 3 wins up at the top. Direwolves, however, they are looking for their second win. And if Order play like they did yesterday, I don't know which way this one's going to go.
Well, stylistically, I think this is an interesting matchup, right? Because you have the Direwolves team, right? Everyone on roll, the veterans, the experience, and you have Claire, who, let's call a spade, hasn't had the strongest start to a split. Then you look at Order and the way they like to play the game around Maximize, the top side of the map, get him the carries, put all the resources into his basket, and potentially we can see like a blowout in top side of the map if Order are able to execute. It's just whether or not Order can stabilize in mid lane and bot lane to then create, a bit of breathing room, if you will, for Maximize to do his work.
Yeah, I had a quick look at the stats as well, and the stats were relatively similar for how far, or for the games both teams have played so far. Direwolves with some slightly better macro stats, and it showed that Order go for some much more kill-oriented gameplay, whereas Direwolves are sort of just going for the throat. So I wonder if that's going to play into either team's favor today.
Yeah,
Hard to say. All yours, Juice.
No, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
It was just, I thought I was jumping in there, a little bit quiet, a little bit of a dynamic that we need to warm up to, Elfish. But I tell you what, when we do warm up, we're going straight to Iceland, you and I'll tell you that much. We might even stop off at Greenland. I heard it's good over there too, so why not?
I tell you what, it's only going to take me one day to make you forget about Skimmy. That's really all I need.
I've already forgotten. I'll tell you that
Maybe
much.
even one game. Maybe Order Direwolves. If that one really pops off, we're going to really just go hard.
Big words. Now, let's have a closer look at Order's lineup going into today. Look, I'll direct it to you, Jubes. You want to take us through Order here?
Yeah, so obviously no changes in the lineup. Maximize, Vengeance, Chungy, Puma, and Beats. Again, this is a roster. We I feel like it's a broken record, but we do talk about Maximize and Vengeance so much, and they really need to get off to a solid start because, we saw against the Chiefs yesterday, when they don't, it sort of does collapse. But, one thing that surprised me was the performance of the bot lane of Order. They managed to completely bring the game back from the brink, stabilize, and give a win condition to their team. So, Puma and Beats for me, while we always focus on Vengeance and Maximize, I want to keep my my eyes on because, if they do draft something like the Kai'Sa, something like the Jinx, and give Puma that ability to carry from the late game, or just carry once they get to, a phase in which there's going to be 5v5 team fights, you have to say we haven't seen many better performances from an AD carry, right? Yesterday, even though they lost, Puma had one of the best performances of the split so far.
Yeah, and at the moment, Puma, I think he's sitting second highest with the average KDA, just under Chaz. So doing very well. I think he's, top of the ADC so far in terms of average KDA, of course. Most kills goes to Violet at the moment with that spectacular game yesterday. But look, he's on another conversation for another time. Let's talk about Direwolves. Now, Direwolves so far, the only champ that they've picked twice is Cupcake choosing for that Thresh. Every other time, they've just been counterpicking their opponents, going all across the board. And Jordan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, no surprises really that they've gone for a couple of Thresh picks, especially after what we saw yesterday from Cupcake on that champion in particular. I really thought that he was kind of a standout yesterday for them. Obviously, you can talk about Gun Crab on the Jinx as well, having a pretty good performance, but it's no surprise that we see the first highlight of the replay package being Cupcake with a pretty awesome death sentence. He had a couple more. There's another one. I think that one was blind, if I'm not incorrect. So he was really, really popping off for Direwolves, and that was obviously feeding a lot of kills over to Gun Crab. I think the bot lane right now for Direwolves is looking quite strong. Mid seems to be okay. My main focus of attention in this particular matchup is going to be in the top lane. Obviously, we've spoken extensively about Maximize from Order, and my question is going to be, how is that going to match up for Claire, who I think so far has struggled a little bit, obviously with that role swap going from mid to top. So I don't want to touch on that too much until we get into the game and see what Claire's going to be able to do. But, you know, it's sort of a clash of two different styles, it seems like, between Order and Direwolves, where Order is going to play towards the top side and Direwolves maybe play towards the bot side.
Yeah, and so far so good. I really want to see Claire succeed because he's had a couple of rough games so far in the LCO. But let's have a quick talk about both the ADCs. We'll have a look at them head to head. You spoke about Gunkrab. He's been doing relatively well, but Puma as well, putting up a very good performance for Order since they've picked him up. And look, head to head, it's looking like it's slightly favouring Puma here, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty close, right? Relative stats, if you look at the average gold share, it means that Puma's doing, a similar amount of damage with just slightly less gold. So you have to say he's being a lot more efficient with it. Gunkrab obviously playing in a team, and you probably also got to consider too, Mac, strength of schedule, right? Gunkrab coming off, versing the top two teams, Puma not necessarily versing the top two teams, and so there's a lot that you could kind of break down and look at. But the one thing is that these AD carries, at first glance, are very evenly compared, right? They both have had really good games, and they've both had some questionable games. So now it's kind of like a who's who, right? Is Gunkrab going to outperform Puma? Is Puma going to outperform Gunkrab? But this is another role that's going to be key to the success of both teams.
Yeah, it says they're his favourite champs as well for Puma, actually has Ez and Vayne in there. So it'd be interesting to see if they finally go that direction, because so far he's only played Jhin, Jinx, and Kaiser. And on the other side of the spectrum, you got Kaiser, Aphelios, and Jinx for Gunkrab. So who knows which way today is going to go.
Yeah, Vayne's one of those funny champions, isn't it, that we don't tend to see a whole lot in competitive League of Legends. You see a lot of Vayne in solo queue, and you obviously go up against the Vayne, they get super fed, they carry the game 1v9, but it just doesn't seem to translate quite as well over to the competitive environment. So I don't think we'll probably be seeing too much Vayne, unfortunately. Oh,
well, hopefully, maybe against one of the easier teams, they might pull it out, just go for something, go for the Direwolf, or even just the Chiefs strat of like, hey, let's just play our favorite heroes, True. Let's just make it work, and hopefully it works out for them. But, we're not in the Order camp, so we don't know exactly what they're doing. Hopefully we can talk to one of their coaches about that as we do head towards the game. But, for now, I just need to ask, what do you, we're not up to the predictions yet, but theoretically, which team do you think looks stronger on paper here?
On paper, hands down, I'd have to go with Direwolves. They just have the experienced, established players who have been there, done it, won, gone overseas, played tournaments overseas. So it's very hard to say that it's not Direwolves being the favorites. But, the one thing that I consider when I look at esports is eventually the young guys got to take over, right? It's the old guard out and the new guys in. And so Order kind of, what that roster says to me is these are the young guys. These are the fresh blood, the new talent that eventually are going to eclipse, the likes of some of those Direwolves players. They'll be here for a lot longer, one would think. So there's always a chance, Mac, that this is the game. This is the game where they have that breakout, and it's all of a sudden we're considering Order to be one of the top dogs. So, you have to be hopeful, and you have to think, okay, yes, whilst Direwolves look the favorites, there's that potential for Order to just, step up and say, hey, we're here.
Yeah, well, hopefully that is today. And look, we can hear straight from the horse's mouth because Nat T has fixed her internet and she is back with us today. So we'll bring her in. Nat, how are you feeling now? Your internet's straight back up?
Yeah, I'm just praying that it holds up for the whole broadcast this time. It was so unlucky last night. It went out after the first interview and then came back on pretty much as you guys were doing the last interview. And I was like, you've got to be joking.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
fortunately... Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Skimmy's
you don't
not
have
here,
to hide
so
it.
Maybe he was the hearse. He was. You just
I just didn't want to be on another broadcast with Skimmy.
That's it. You just wanted to be next to Jordan there again. Anyway, Nat, who do you have for us for game one of the night?
I have Chungy from Order and Only from Direwolves. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I want to ask you first, Chungy, how are you guys feeling down there? You unfortunately had your first loss yesterday, so are you guys back in high spirits? How are you feeling?
Yeah, it was pretty devastating yesterday because we should have won, but all of us, we had our moments where we just threw the game. So yeah, but today we should be confident going in.
Yeah, what do you think it came down to? Was it more of a communication thing, just how you guys were playing, or like, is that stuff that you talked about
it
and
was
worked on
more-
for today's game?
Yeah. It was more macro and a bit of micro, but yeah, no, we all just had our moments and we just threw. So yeah, can't really comment about that too much. Yeah.
No, well, I mean, it's good to know that you guys are still feeling confident coming into this one. Only it's the complete other end for you guys. You had your first ever win yesterday. How does that feel? And like, what's the mood with the team now coming into this one with a win?
I just think it's funny what Chungi said. By the way, we all just had our moments, but we threw. I've been living that life for like years, but yeah, it feels good to finally win 1 week too late. IMO, but you know, a W is a W. We'll take that win, and you know, I do feel sorry for Order because don't plan on stopping that train just yet. You know, I think it's 3-0 week.
Yeah, you think this is the week for Direwolves?
For sure, I'm feeling it. This is my old team. I know how they operate, you know, so I got extra confidence today.
You got the inside knowledge. Well, then that also makes me wonder, what has it been like preparing for a game on like back-to-back days like this, to have one yesterday and then today?
It's not that different, honestly. Like most players in OS have, well, I mean like every region really, but like we all just have like grind mentality anyway. So playing like, you know, more than 1 game a week isn't like a big deal. It's the same as it always is. You know, it's basically just like a scrim day, but we're just playing 1 game.
Awesome. And then I guess my final question is there anyone you guys are really nervous to come up against on the other team? We can start with you only.
Nervous? Definitely not nervous to verse anybody, but I do have some old school respect for Vengeance. LX, I remember he was like rank 1 or something like 3-4 years ago. So I mean, it's been a minute, but you know, maybe he's still got it. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But you know, I'm excited to verse him. No nerves though.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of eyes on him. We've been talking about him a little bit on stream.
Sure.
But what about you, Chungi? Is there anyone for you that you're
For me, it would
nervous
be
or really
Shock.
excited to go up against?
Oh.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I'll be I'm a little nervous, but it should be fine. But yeah, I think Shock is the best player
Do
on
you
the team.
reckon? Yeah, do you reckon you'll be able to read him like a book and hopefully gain some advantage for the team?
Yeah, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. Good luck with the game, and I will be speaking to one of you guys afterwards, hopefully. But thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Well, there you go. So, nice little interview. Good to see that the experienced players don't really feel the nerves, and the younger up-and-comers did admit that they are feeling a little bit nervous going into today's match. So we'll see if that plays a factor. But yeah, great interview, Nat. Now let's jump into the predictions and see where we've all lent towards going into the first matchup of today. And it looks like you're all on Direwolves' side. I'm the only one here for Order. What's going on?
Well, some of us don't like to play allegiances. I know myself and Juves, we're the neutral force. We're the Switzerland, stuck between a couple of, you know, particularly interesting parties here on the Order and Direwolf side. So,
I promise there is no ulterior motive in my choice. I just think they really are on that win train this week, you know?
Of course, yeah.
I just want to see Order keep pushing that point, you know, and getting up to that 3-1 scoreline.
For sure.
What were you going to say,
you have
Juves?
something to say,
I thought you were going to jump back in.
I don't want to cut people off, so I'm just, you know, I'm just minding my own business. I'm enjoying the experience. I'm listening to you three just have a chit chat, and sometimes it's I like to be the quiet one in the room. But I just was going to say, sometimes some of us aren't contractually obliged to skew our tipping.
Exactly.
No idea what you're talking about with that one, but look, that will bring us one step closer to the game. So, Nat, we'll let you go take a little rest and get ready for the post-game interview. Hopefully, you can view the game nicely from the sidelines.
I hope so. Hopefully the internet holds up.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, type 1 in chat to pray for Nat's internet for today. Hopefully, it does hold up. Now, we are going to be moving closer to the game, but before then, you know, after the interview, has anything changed? Do you think the nerves of Order might be a bit key here? Do you think, you know, the experience of Direwolves could help get them across the line today?
I'm actually a firm believer that being nervous is actually a benefit, especially if you know how to channel it. I think a lot of the time that you become complacent on stage, or complacent in games rather, and the times that you lose games that you should win is when you just have that, you know, you're not nervous, you don't really have that care factor, and you're just going into it like it's another day at the office. You know, the nerves keep you fresh, they keep you young, and if you're able to channel them in a positive way, then it keeps your reflexes sharp. And I think Order are a key, or are a proof of that rather, when they versed Chiefs, and they were able to bounce back from those team fights, bounce back from those deficits, and they were able to just keep going, keep pushing, and they really took Chiefs to the end there. So I think it's a good thing.
Oh, well, hopefully it all works out for them. But look, we do have to quickly thank Esports Assessment Labs again. So if you guys at home want to go test yourselves, you know, test your genetics, go, you know, see how good your reaction time is, how good your perception skills are, and also build on them as well. You know, keep going back, testing yourself, and seeing how well your improvement goes. So please head over to Esports Assessment Labs. Go follow that link there on screen if you would like to do so. And that brings us one more step towards Champ Select. So before we jump into it, do you think we're going to see the same old from these players? Do you think we're going to see them lean to what they want to go for? Or are we going to see a sort of situation with Direwolves where they're going to go for the counter pick sort of situation again?
I mean, it obviously depends on what side that they're on, and things of that nature. And I would like to see Order go back to their basics, go back to what worked for them, right? I believe Vengeance Alex didn't lock in that Lilia, although he had the option, opted in for the Hecarim. I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, you know, similar story here for them. I'd love to see them just stick to what worked for them in the first 2 games. And with Direwolves, you know, we spoke to Cupcake in an interview. Not sure if you were watching Elfish, but we did have an interview with Cupcake, and he just wants to be the playmaker. He's going to be on the support that has that go button, so we're probably going to see that from Direwolves.
Yeah, bit of Thresh maybe, bit of Rel, something like that. I mean, so far he's only played Bard and Thresh, so that would kind of go hand in hand with that statement. I wonder if he's going to be pulling anything different out here, or if we are going to go again towards that early pick of Thresh, if that's something that Chiefs leaves open, or rather Order leaves open, I should say. So, yeah, quite interesting to see. I think that it seems like Direwolves like to just get those early sort of support picks through, and then let the rest of the team comp go down the list and try and get those counter picks where they come. And I don't think it's necessarily the worst of strategies, particularly when you're going to get that kind of value out of your first pick support, regardless of whether it gets counterpicked or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, if it works, it works. So why not keep going with it?
Oh, and just to touch on something we haven't mentioned yet, Udyr isn't 100% pick ban anymore. So let's see if it stays. I can't remember. I'll check that because you know, you guys need to get into the game. You guys need to take us into Champ Select. Jordan, Elfish Guy, and Jubes, all 3 of you take us into this game.
Take me in, Elfish. Take me in for Champion Select.
Let's go. And welcome Jordan as well to the Champion Select, because it's great to have you here too. Look, interesting. Let's see what we're going to get here straight away, the Thresh ban. And I don't know if I love to see that or hate to see that, because I was quite enjoying watching Cupcake playing the Thresh yesterday when I was just chilling on my couch listening to your beautiful voice, Jubes. But unfortunately, we won't get to see that today.
No, and you're probably the first person ever that said I had a beautiful voice, so I really appreciate that, because a lot of the time they say, where did they find this guy from? Why does he sound like that? And unfortunately, genetically, I can't change the way that I sound. But let's not open that box while we're in Champion Select. Let's opt in to see why they've early picked Hecarim. They know that Vengeance is a Lilia player, and you know the Hecarim does fare quite well into the Lilia. Again, I mentioned yesterday on broadcast, I'd like to see something like the Kayn, especially because OC is a little more chaotic. You'll be able to get that form upgrade that bit quicker. It is picked in Korea, but a lot of the games are a lot slower. Nevertheless, Galio locked in as well, so Changyi is going to show us his prowess on the mid laner that should have a bit of priority and have access to move. So already saying that they're opting in for this team fight sort of style.
Yeah, I wanted to say that the Karma might be a bit of a flex pick, could potentially go top, could potentially go support, but now we've got the Rel locked in as well for Direwolves, so have to imagine that Karma's going to go up into the top lane for Claire. We've seen him play that already this season, and then that sort of opens up the question of what kind of AD carry are you going to be selecting for Direwolves, right? Because you have the potential of having the Karma to really activate a hyper carry. Something like the Jinx maybe that we've seen come through for Gunkrab already wouldn't necessarily be the worst of choices, but a lot of lockdown on the side of Order as well. So then you have to sort of play with the fact that, okay, I might have a bit of an immobile AD carry here that has to deal with all this CC, all this crowd control that Order can bring to the table.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, you look at the teams, you look at the nameplates, and you think, okay, you sort of know what's going to happen, right? And in this sense, Direwolves, right, they take the Karma, and you think, okay, it could still be flexed mid. They could still put Karma mid. But then you think, as a team, they just lose so much value when Shock isn't on that 10 CS per minute control mage in the mid lane, like the Azir, like the Orianna, you know, even like well, they've banned those two away now, but like the Syndra as well. So, again, looks like Karma's going top lane. If ORD really had to take a punt and had to take a guess on it, they would probably say that it is going top lane, and they'll be able to pick accordingly. So, see what they pick here. It's the Gnar. So it's the Gnar. They're happy for that matchup. They want the Gnar into the what is possibly Karma top lane. And I was running a similar comp to what we saw yesterday, right? The hyper carry composition where, you know, they're probably going to lock in the Jinx, lock in something like the Kai'Sa, and just buff Gunkrab up and let him turbo 1v9 the game.
Aphelios also on the table, but normally we would see that paired with the Thresh, which obviously isn't an option for Direwolves in this instance. So Zoe now starts to make you think, okay, what if we try to go to a little bit more of a poke-oriented composition? But as you say, it is the Syndra lock, which is not a huge surprise here for Direwolves, even yourself talking about it just prior. So I think this final lock-in for Direwolves is going to be the major piece of the puzzle that really gets us kind of excited for this composition coming together.
Yeah, and both AD carries for these teams have dropped to last pick, right? Cupcake going to be picking for Gunkrab here, and again, if I had to guess, if I had to put a bet on it, it's definitely going to be something that scales extremely well, and it is the Xayah. So little more mobility than the Jinx, not wanting to get, and he's just has he just absolutely locked in the Vayne?
He has locked in the Vayne.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a bit of egg on my face, isn't it? After what I said in the pre-show.
And he hasn't even just, like, you know where sometimes you get into a draft and you start to think about it. You're like, all right, potentially a Vayne angle, potentially a Vayne game. And then it was just no questions asked, insta-lock, and going to be very interesting to see how Puma pilots this one, because he's going to have a few threats jumping on him. You know, the Rel's going to be able to just flash CC the Vayne, followed up by the Syndra and the onslaught of shadows from the Hecarim. So it's going to be quite tough for him to maneuver around these team fights, but I guess that's why they've opted in for the, you know, the Galio, the Alistar, just to be able to peel this Vayne. And, you know, if my money's on the Vayne to be able to shred through a front line quicker than the Xayah, especially if the Vayne is ahead from laning phase. But again, it's going to be a little tough for the Vayne early just to get to those item spikes.
All right, I've got two questions for you here, Juice, both of them relating to the AD carry or the bot lane. The first of which is, a lot of the time, I've obviously been watching all the LCO drafts, and we've been seeing the AD carry very, very late in the selection process. Is there a reason why teams want to leave the AD carry to the last pick? Is it partly to do with them trying to figure out what the opposing composition is going to be and how they're going to have to deal with that? Or is it maybe just by chance?
Well, I think it's partly because, right, you look at the Direwolves composition, I think they definitely were hoping for an angle in which they could pick that, you know, that out-and-out hyper carry of, like, the Jinx. But then when they saw the Gnar, they saw the Galio, they saw the threats that were on the enemy, the ORD's composition, especially with the Alistar, they thought, you know, Jinx is just a little too immobile and not enough peel, not enough utility to keep Jinx alive. You know, obviously he's going to have the Karma shields, but probably not feeling confident enough to opt in for that. So they've little curveball, Gunkrab on the Xayah, still scales into Oblivion. You know, ADs definitely do scale well into the late game, and you know, they were opting. It was more or less they wanted to see the cards that ORD had before they made that final decision. And I think that both these teams kind of pivot quite heavily off their AD carries, and if they can get that advantage, get that counter pick, then they're happy. Also have to consider the bans that come on through too, right? You know, you don't want to get pinched in moments where they ban 3 champions in the first 3, and then you have no options in the jungle role, in the mid lane role, and it honestly just comes down to champion pool too a lot of the time. So, you know, various reasons, but those are the ones that come to mind initially.
All right, well then the second question was, what potentially is the reason we don't see a lot of Vayne in competitive? I mean, it's not a pick that seems to get taken all that often. Is it just that it's easily deletable in lane, doesn't quite get to that late game scary presence as quickly as you'd like? Maybe that you would normally see something like in solo queue?
Well, a perfect example is in Azir meta, which is pretty much meta right now. Azir meta, Orianna meta. It's very hard for Vayne to play the game. Vayne's one of the shortest ranged AD carries. Yes, has mobility. Yes, has the tumble. But if you're trying to fight through a Shurima wall and sand soldiers that are just, you know, 3 of them popped up in mid lane, you're dead before you're able to do any relevant damage. Also, to top that off, you know, Vayne's laning phase isn't the strongest, especially, you know, when you pair that against stuff with a lot of the utility and kill lanes that we see. So there's just better options that are safer. Obviously, you know, Vayne gets the 6 items. It's going to be able to completely shred any target. But, you know, it's always the case of, can we get there? How do we get there? And what have we lost while we've gotten there?
All right, well, maybe while we've got a bit of a slower early game here, we can get Calvin on the line and have a bit of a chat about that Vayne pick. G'day, Calvin. I don't know if you were listening to that just before, listening to Juves, but we were discussing the Vayne selection. So do you want to give us your thoughts on that and how it's supposed to work inside of this composition for Order?
I'm definitely listening to that, Summoners, and good evening, everyone. So yeah, I think Vayne is a really good pick here because Vayne actually, like, I heard about like when you guys were talking about Vayne drafts. So Vayne is a champion that needs a lot of setup basically. If you don't have like massive front line, you know, like this Galio, like the Alistar, like the Gnar, it's actually very hard to play Vayne. It's very hard to make space for the Vayne to actually work because she's one of like, she has very high single target DPS, but she usually rather the game to drag out a little longer, the fights drag out a little longer. So and we see this opportunity because like Hecarim is like always a big threat to AD carries, and you know, with Xayah gone and not many mobile ADC that can deal with the Hecarim, you know, Vayne is naturally a really good choice here.
Yeah, definitely, and not a bad pick for Puma, as I understand, just in general, so that's going to go hand in hand. The other question I have then is sort of surrounding Direwolves and the composition that they've drafted. Based on our discussions in the Champ Select, we felt this was a very Direwolves kind of a composition, if that makes sense. So was this within the expectation for you guys as well, and are you comfortable playing against what Direwolves have brought today?
Yeah, this is like well within our expectation, especially with all the bans and their picks. So like the early lock-in to with the Karma, we predicted like pretty easily. The Jace and the Aurelia ban were like deliberately, you know, were deliberately sort of made for them to ban because we knew that we just wanted the Gnar instead of those 2 champions, because we knew that the Karma has to be going top lane instead of mid lane. And then yeah, so basically, you know, we're also giving the rail so that Vayne can have a safer laning phase because the rail can never engage to a Vayne Alistar. So like a lot of this draft is actually very predictive for us.
Awesome, good to hear. And then I suppose the final question before we let you go, relating to last week coming into this week, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that you started off with a bit of an easier week than what we saw from a lot of the other teams, but how's the expectations going for this week? Obviously having the loss yesterday, but coming into the day, a 1-1 would be okay, I imagine?
Yeah, I think definitely last week was a relatively easy week in terms of, you know, LCO in general. However, I still think Gravitas and Mammoth, you know, have their strength in terms of like their niche picks and their play style, etc. And I think yesterday's game is just us being underperforming, and it's no big deal. I think the team environment is still pretty good. Everyone's still keen to, you know, just go 2-0 for the remaining of the week.
Awesome, mate. Well, I really appreciate the chat and best of luck in the rest of the game. We'll jump back into the discussion, and Juve's bit of poking going backwards and forwards I've noticed there from Direwolves. Seems like they might be starting to get ahead a little bit in mid and bot. Yeah,
a little bit of poke going down, but you know, it's important to remember in this mid lane that Shock TP'd back to lane. Chungy still had his, so Chungy not in any danger here. They're just going to trade minion waves, and you know, these Galio matchups into the control mages aren't really that bad early. They just get a lot worse as time goes on once they get enough mana to be able to permanently push waves, you know, permanently harass the Galio. But one thing I wanted to talk about quickly was that, you know, we noticed Vengeance getting the double crab on the Hecarim there, and he did something really cute. What he did after getting bot lane crab was he walked through mid lane, helped push that lane with Galio to secure the double crab top side. And a lot of mid junglers don't do this because they're like, I don't want to take EXP or minions off of my mid laner. But, you know, at the expense of a double crab, you'd have to say it's worth it because Vengeance is now, if he parts correctly, going to hit level 6 first. And we might even see a contest here, Alfish, so I'll just cut myself off.
Yeah, I think it's getting pretty interesting. Vengeance has hit level 6, the sleep down on a couple of members for Direwolves, and Chungy arrives with the taunt. He's not necessarily required, but keeps Cupcake out of the fight. Maximize does arrive first on Gnar, but no Mega available just yet. Puma cops a big stun. Vengeance diving on top of Shock, and in the back lines, it's support on support beats. beats Cupcake down to the ground. And in the end, Order come away with what looks to be quite a hefty victory in a very early skirmish. That was a little bit ambitious, I want to say, from Direwolves, getting that early Dragon attempt going. Shock might have overextended for that kill and has. So it ends up being a 3-for-1 at the end, Juves. That's early engagements.
Yeah, definitely not worth for Shock to trade 1-for-1 there. Had a big wave he could have collected instead. But, you know, I'm glad I touched on it before it happened, right? I was saying Vengeance able to get the double crab because he walked through mid lane, pushed the wave with his mid laner to then secure top crab. Now Vengeance hits level 6 early. Direwolves on a window in which they could not start that dragon. Probably not expecting Vengeance to get 6 that quickly, but then he's able to just start the fight. And yeah, it's pretty much signed, sealed, and delivered after that. 3-man sleep, you're not going to win many dragon fights after that. Potentially, if they played this a little better, Order might have been able to pick up a few more kills, but again, Order in the driving seat and seeing the complete opposite of what we saw yesterday from them. You know, they butchered the game on the crabs last game, or yesterday rather, and this is today they've got themselves quite a lead because of it.
Not a bad start for Order. Gonna need to make sure that they can convert that though. Direwolves is definitely a solid roster and one of the more difficult opponents that Order has played so far in LCO. We've seen instances where Order has been ahead and they haven't been able to close the game out, and vice versa, where they have been ahead and it's taken them a while to close things out. So I want to really be able to see them just slow things down a little bit here, play with the advantages that they've got, and really start to force the issue on Direwolves when push comes to shove.
In this mid lane matchup now, Chungy is a little bit like Faker in the sense that he's got his Mercury Treads into the Syndra, plus the shield, you know, the AP shield that Galio has built into kit. So it's going to fare very well in this matchup for the interim. And Vengeance is a level ahead of Only. So again, all the tools are with Order to make something happen, and they might be caught here though.
Yeah, a little bit happening down in the bot lane. Cupcake is knocked up into the air. The Rel not necessarily the target that you want to be focusing down, but works in this instance as Puma's able to proc the silver bolts not only on one, but on two opponents, and that is a kill. First kill for Puma this game on the Vayne. We turn our attention up to the mid lane, and Chungy having a little bit of a go-ahead at Shock, but that won't result in a kill. What it will result in, though, Juice, is the Dragon for Order, which is something that Direwolves were looking for earlier. So far, nothing going their way.
If I'm being completely honest, Elfish, this is a little bit of a jungle clinic coming out of Vengeance. He's pathing into you know, protection of his bottom lane, and that's just a kill in the mid lane that we've missed. Unfortunately, I was going to go on a little bit of a tangent about how well Vengeance is playing. And I mean, with this Order, what we're seeing from Order right now is actually insane, right? Like it's you know, it's the complete polar opposite of what we saw yesterday. You know, slow start into a significant gold deficit, and right now they're just playing the map extremely well. Beats is able to leave his lane and leave Puma on an island to just farm 1v1 into Gun Crab, and Vengeance is always there to protect the volatile lane that is the Vayne. And Vengeance on this Lilia, you just have to wonder why he didn't pick it yesterday.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit scared for my prediction, and I guess yours by extension. Both of us looking to Direwolves.
Yeah.
But Mac might be feeling pretty happy with how things are progressing so far. Here's a replay of the kill that happened in mid. Chungy forced to flash after being knocked back by the Syndra E, but regardless, Beats was there to cause enough of a ruckus, headbutt Polv, and that's it for Shock. So down a couple of kills in mid, a couple of kills in bot. There isn't really a lane that's winning right now for Direwolves. The Cupcake has to start now roaming to match Beats, otherwise Beats is going to be able to force the issue even further with the advantage that Order has.
Yeah, but you know, the problem is the state of bot lane right now is Vayne is always going to be fine in this 1v1. And if anything, Vayne's going to start winning this 1v1 quite hard, so that when Alistar does roam, Cupcake looks to match, and it's always going to be a win for Order because the Vayne is just inherently going to be able to pick up farm and get to the item spikes that she needs. Keep your eyes on the way ping's bot lane though, and it looks like they're going to go for a turret dive. Puma needs to make a decision. Does he leave tower? Does he try to outplay?
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be information there for Order regardless, because you can see there's a lot of wards down in the river. You have the vision of the champions around in mid, and Obviously, Puma, he's got plenty of forewarning as to what might potentially be headed his way, and he's just decided to back off, which is fine. Does let Gunkrab pick up a couple of plates, and I think he might have got a couple of them solo as well. So that's a nice gold pickup for Direwolves, especially in a composition where they're really looking for this Xayah to activate.
But you have to consider, right, like, he got a couple of plates. They traded it for the Rift Herald. Potentially, Beats did not need to walk across map like that and offer his hand, but Rift Herald is the exact same trade that Direwolves get out of this, so think of it as like money in the bank, you know? That is eventually going to go over to Order, and next play Vengeance makes may result in a turret going down because it is so volatile to die, and stun lands, but Shock's flash is back up now, so he's a little bit safer.
Yeah, he's okay for now, playing quite at that range. I mean, every time I look mid, it seems like Shock is out-trading Chungy, which I suppose is what you're expecting on the Syndra. But the all-ins are going the way of the Galio. That's favorable for Order. Flash forced in the top lane. Claire will get out of there okay. Does have TP available if he wants to come back up to top pretty quickly here.
There's just so much pressure being exerted on the map, and Vengeance might be in a little bit of trouble here.
Onslaught of Shadows doesn't quite cause any problem for Vengeance. There's still a contest over this blue buff, but that's well and truly going the way of Direwolves. Still, a key piece of utility out of the back pocket of Direwolves for at least the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, really uncharacteristic mistakes coming out of Direwolves. Maybe they're feeling the pressure that Order are piling onto them here because, you know, only just preemptively ulting for that blue buff. Have to say, didn't need to do that. Combo from Beats. Getting chunked, trading his health for that. You'd have to say not worth it, you know, but support sometimes can't help themselves. They see the AD carry. Ooh, nice
I've
damage.
been there myself. I've been there.
Yeah.
Happens to the best of us.
And
But Gunkrab cops a bit back.
And the one thing I wanted to touch on was the itemization here from Vengeance, and I think he's actually done a very good job here. The only way Vengeance dies in this game or in the next skirmish is from getting either, you know, chain CC'd by the Rel or, you know, ulted by the Hecarim. And picking up that Zhonya's absolutely negates any threat. So he's able to make a very big flash multi-man sleep play on the Lilia that we've come to know and love. And with the dragon spawning shortly, it is just like the right time to have that item and have that purchase. So again, nice heads up play, deviating from what we'd normally see, which would probably be the Liandry's, and just good heads up play.
I like what we've been getting, though, from Direwolves in the last 4 or 5 minutes. You know, in that post-Dragon sort of couple of minutes, they've slowed things down pretty substantially. Now the Rift Herald is going to force something to happen now, and that's what Order wants. They're ahead by about 2k gold. They can get this bottom tower. They can really start to open the map up a little bit. And Dragon is coming online now as well. So that's going to have to be the next point of contest for Direwolves. There's a TP advantage in the top lane as well. I just don't think Direwolves can contest this.
No, and you know, they're definitely not contesting it, right? Cupcake's just channeling that base, and it's just very good timing, very good window to contest that Dragon. They got priority in the bot side, they had priority in mid lane, and you know, no one on this Direwolves team can really face check River if they're not walking in from the same angle, and they just were not prepared for it. And again, really good pathing from Vengeance, and you can still see he's got that level lead, he's maintaining it, and Lilia's that type of champion where you give Lilia an inch, she'll take a mile. She really does clear the jungle so fast with items and just scales extremely well. So I thought maybe he'll ding 11 there, but got to be very close to 11. Looking for a play bot side of the map now too, Alfish.
He's about 80% of the way to level 11.
Might be an ultimate here onto Cupcake.
There is indeed the headbutt pole into the Condemn, into the wall, and there goes the Alistar. Never mind, it's the Rel. The Alistar, of course, diving deep, causing the issue, and Cupcake, well, 0-3 at the moment. Certainly feeling the lack of Thresh, I think, for Direwolves right now.
And I feel like a broken record, right? All I'm talking about is jungle pathing and why it's good. And the fact that he pops his head into bot lane there, shows his presence so they can just walk up and brute force the turret is pretty much all I was going to say. Job done, well done, go home, reset. But for some reason, Cupcake just tries to walk up and defend the turret that's inevitably going down. And you have to think these uncharacteristic mistakes that are coming out are a little bit of pressure that they're feeling from how good the early game's gone for Order. You know, and maybe this is something that compositionally that Direwolves aren't aware of. They probably just feel the pressure, and they have to remember, you're playing with a Karma top lane. When it gets to 5v5 and grouping, you're going to outscale, but obviously being 4,000 gold down now at 15 minutes,
Oh, what's going on here? Direwolves have gone over the blast cone. Lilia caught inside it. The Zhonya popped by Vengeance will be enough to keep him alive for now only. Might have gone a little bit too deep with that onslaught of shadows, and now Chungy has arrived. Taunt in hand, Gun Crab knocked up in the air, beats there, the double knock-up, and that has gone awfully for Direwolves. Claire down now as well. It's just Shock and Cupcake trying to salvage it, and they'll get a couple of kills, but Order come away well and truly with the fight victory there.
I mean, might be a trade here. Flashes forward, stuns.
Chungy is going to put to sleep Vengeance. He's hit him with a lilting. Oh no, Shock, how is this all happening? He's gotten out.
I thought he might die to the tick, but the potion just heals a little bit too much for the Lilia burn.
I thought the lilting lullaby was going to keep him stuck for a little bit longer than it did, and well, he gets out. That's good.
Yeah, I mean,
I suppose.
Like, good is a subjective term in that scenario, right?
Contextually, it's good, but
it is the best of a worst case scenario. He makes it out. He has to use his flash, and again, this is what I was talking about earlier. The Zhonya's purchase from Vengeance, buying so much time into this composition. This composition from Direwolves has the go button, right? The Hecarim ultimate. If you're able to survive that and the CC from Rel, then your re-engage is just going to win you a fight, and that's exactly what we saw here. You know, beats with the 3-man Alistar combo. Headbutts Shock away to buy some time and some distance for the rest of his carries. And, you know, Shock probably plays this team fight as well as he can, if I'm being completely honest, but it is just an absolute wash on the back end, and Order are just a little bit too far ahead for this point in the game. And again, broken record, but Order just playing this early game so well. The way they're moving around the map, take bot tower, reset, move your bot lane to the top side of the map. There's no dragon to contest, and they just have all their members there ready for the play that Direwolves are trying to make.
And Shock's not really at that point where he's going to be able to 1v5. He's going to be able to be that Syndra that can just blow up one or two of the carries, and that's the fight done and dusted just yet. Has only completed the one item, though has the Dark Seal in the back pocket as well. So have to keep an eye on how that continues to tick along. So far, hasn't really been all that impactful yet for Direwolves, but Sloan said he wins the race, I suppose, and they're going to have to just wait, really, I think is the name of the game right now for Direwolves. Try to take this one a little bit later, take another 5-10 minutes without too much craziness happening, and start to get some of those champions online, because let's face it, I mean, when you put them pound for pound, really only the Syndra is matching what kind of value we're getting out of the Order individuals.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, the thing that kind of concerns me, right, is that not the fact that Direwolves scale, because they do. It's that if all you're doing is trading farm at this point in the game, at this stage where you're 5k down at 18 minutes, eventually, hold that thought.
Well, another sleep from Vengeance, and that might well be the end of Shock. Still surviving, but not long enough. Long enough to get the ult out onto Puma, but how much does that really help? Onslaught of Shadows onto Vengeance, but as always, Zhonya's available, and Order come away with what seemed to be another couple of free picks, really, in the end there.
And it just ultimately looks like a nothing play. It just looks like they're trading farm in the mid lane, they're trading farm in the side lanes. All of a sudden, Bowling Ball hits Shock, and, you know, being punished for using his flash before, right? We said, yeah, best of the worst case situation, but has no flash. As soon as that Bowling Ball lands, Lilia asleep, and it's just an absolute wash. And, you know, Direwolves are probably their own worst enemy in the sense that they're just trying to recover losses. Sometimes, you know, you have to let that teammate fall down. You got to let that member go, as opposed to giving them a few more kills, a few more turrets, and making the game, you know, a lot worse than the state it needs to be in. And all of a sudden, we're 8k gold deficit.
Well, what's the out then for Direwolves? What can they actually do with this composition that they've got to start to try and claw back some of the deficit?
I mean, first things first, you've got to stop getting caught. You have to stop getting picked. Fundamentally, there's no excuse to be caught on that wave there, right? We talk about the players, the caliber of players that they have. You know, getting caught there is just a little lazy, a little bit disrespectful, not respecting Vengeance. That Vengeance is going to pull the trigger. But on the same sense, right, young teams that, you know, get this opportunity to verse, you know, storied veterans, sometimes they don't pull that trigger, and you can get away with that. So you have to give credit to Order. You know, they're given an inch and they take the mile. You know, it's not easy to call the tower dive there. Yes, they are up a significant amount, but, you know, it's well rehearsed and it's well coordinated, and they're able to just punish Shock.
Well, can't be affording to make those kinds of mistakes, particularly with MSI on the horizon if you are the team that ends up going over there, you know. Talk about you maybe being able to get away with it in the LCO. Well, let's be real, for whoever ends up going and representing Oceania, competition level is going to get higher. So you kind of need to play that perfect gameplay, right? Practice the way that you want to play rather than playing around what you might be able to get away with regardless.
Yeah. And you'd have to wonder now, at least I'm wondering, will Lilia, or will Vengeance rather, ever get his hands on Lilia again? Because this just might be the single best jungle performance so far in the LCO. In terms of pathing, in terms of game plan early to double crab, in terms of just the jungle pathing and reading of Only, and it's not easy to, you know, play against Only, right? One of the best junglers that we've had in this region for a very long time, so he'll be fine. If anything, he's going back in.
Yeah, I don't know if Shock is going to be fine. He does clock the Karma Shield, but teleport in there from Chungy, who is forced to pop Shirelias actually to get out of there. Still, not too bad in the end for Order as they continue to put a bit of that pressure on. Maximize! Oh, he missed the Gnar! He missed the ultimate. That's unfortunate for Order because it would have been a big one.
You know, he did force the flash out of Claire too, though, so you have to say flash for flash. Not a terrible situation, but which one do you value more? Rel goes in.
Re-engage, this time from Direwolves on the front foot, and that hasn't worked out so far. Onslaught of Shadows right on top of Vengeance, trying to get him out of the picture, but Puma heals him back on up, and all of a sudden you talk about that counter-engage. Well, it's worked out nicely for Order. Shock did end up getting that one shot that we've been looking for onto Puma, right as he tried to get some Vayne highlight reel going, but in the end, all well and done for Order, and they moved their way over to Baron.
That's a gold deficit gap team fight, right? And you know, it is also a little bit of a, we have to force now or it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And sometimes, you know, seeing certain champions on the enemy team, it puts you in this predicament where you start to feel you need to do stuff that you don't need to. And in that situation, you know, Cupcake going in with the force. Really good Lily asleep. Look how many people on the back end there were just asleep. Really good lullaby. Must sound good coming out of Vengeance. Maybe he's got a really good voice. I think I saw musical instruments in his background last interview, so maybe a little bit of a music man. Back to my point though, it was maybe Cupcake saw the Vayne. They see the Vayne, they see the Lilia, see the Gnar, and they think, okay, now's the time to go. We have to, or it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And they've just, you know, put themselves in an even bigger hole.
I suppose it's fair enough, right? If you see the opportunity, you're playing something like Rel, you can still have that playmaking ability to lock them all down, get a really good team fight in there. But the question is, where's the follow-up? Obviously, the Onslaught of Shadows from Only is an option, but he used that to go back on top of Vengeance and almost in a sense to try and peel for the back line. So at that point, then it's only Cupcake in the back line of Order, and obviously we know how that pans out. Rel is not going to survive. Cupcake, 0 and 6, doesn't have the items to be able to sort of bait that out. Whereas for Vengeance, he's got the Zhonyas and he can spend a lot of time in the fight. Well, speaking of Cupcake, he's going to be fine this time. But yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's a very tough situation here for Direwolves to come back into this game now. 10K down.
At 24 minutes. It's not that it's 10K, right? It's 10K at 24 minutes. That's the problem. And, you know, this might be the pick that they need.
Oh, I'm not sure that it will be. Only commits to it. Chungy is barely even taking any damage, and the rest of Order is waltzing on by the sidelines saying, hey, let's go. But Direwolves not too interested, obviously having used one of their big ultimates.
Soul points up too. We've got to keep our eye on that, and whilst it's not the most coveted soul in the game,
I mean, Cupcake here, he's going to go in onto Beats and Alistair. You can't all in on an Alistair, especially one that's this far ahead.
Support 1v1.
So they just have to give away the Mountain Drake. And now, again, it's more of a counter-engage, really, from Order than anything else. But Direwolves are just so out of position that they're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Nah, it's just gold diff. It's gold gap diff, and Direwolves are just trying to contest everything, absolutely everything, on the basis of having nothing, right? They have no control of this game whatsoever, yet they're still trying to force and they're still trying to walk in, and Order are just saying, okay, well, we'll punish it. But the one thing I wanted to say, Fisher, was a little bit of supportal combat at the back end there. It was Beats versus Cupcake in the 1v1, and I think Beats is tankier than the tankiest member on Direwolves by a country mile at this point.
Not very fair. Beats has almost finished 2 items. Looks like he's going towards the Thornmail. Whereas Cupcake has only just now finished the Turbo Chem tank, so bit of a deficit in that respect. Sometimes it's just how it is. So now it sort of just feels like, okay, Order have this one on a silver platter, and they have to ensure that they close it out comfortably. If they find a way to lose this game, definitely some questions will be asked.
I mean, if they lose this game, you know what? I can't even theorize if they lose this game. That's the problem. There's no, like, I've checked the dimensions, right? I've quickly gone into my time portal. I've gone to the second, third, fourth, and fifth dimension, and they win the games in all of those ones as well. But apparently the 7th one is where Direwolves can win.
Okay. Well, we'll hope for the 7th one for Direwolves then.
Quick question, because I'm not a guy into science. Is there such a thing as that? Are there that many dimensions?
Look, Juice, I mean, I know you were talking about your big brain yesterday, and I'm really not sure if my brain is big enough to answer that question for you, so you might be better equipped to do it yourself.
All I said was I had a very big head, and in that head has to be something, because...
Maybe, Juves, that's where the 7th dimension is.
You reckon?
Because, well, I mean, how else do you think Direwolves can win this? Unless they're playing inside of Juves' brain.
If, yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am. I shouldn't say it too loud, though, because I feel like I'm going to get taken away somewhere and examined. Anyway,
well, look at this from Beats.
Looking on the flank.
He's searching for the headbutt pulp, not even required. The flash pulp is going to be enough. And poor old Gun Crab does not even have a chance. Cupcake also following suit. And Puma in the back lines is just having the freest game of his life on this vein. This is the dream. With such a big front line, you can really do whatever you want. And so far ahead, Order don't even look like they're going to take damage. Whoa, spoke too soon, but Puma does dodge the E quite nicely. And now the Lilting Lullaby lands on top of shot. Vengeance dives in, has Zhonya's to keep himself alive. Maximize, can't get the kill with the Karma Shield coming through. But that's going to be the game, I'd say, for Order. The Nexus turrets go down. The Nexus is dropping. Direwolves are desperately trying to defend. But there is a snowball's chance in hell of them keeping that game alive. And expertly done by Order. A little bit of egg on our face, Tubes. I know that we're going to be bringing Mac into the conversation in a second. But I got to say, at this point, I really don't want to.
Before Mac comes in, well, he is going to come in. We're going to bring Mac in. Mac, when you get in here, don't say a word because I'm going to say something. I'm officially handing in my resignation as the analyst of the show because Mac knows far more about League of Legends than I do. So Mac, if you want, I'll host next seg and you come in and analyze the game. I have no idea and I should never have doubted the Order Army.
Look, I don't know about that. I'm pretty happy to finally start to catch back up in predictions because I think I might have been the only person that actually picked Order out of this game today. I'll have to go double check that one. But I was. There you go. So I did know something that the other 5 of us didn't know. So let's go. Let's go. Hashtag Order up. Hashtag LCO, you know, get at me. And, you know, someone's got to believe in the boys. And that was me today. So, you know, just that. If you look at exactly how Direwolves wanted to play, you know, as I mentioned earlier, they were much more macro-oriented, whereas Order were all about going for the kills, going for the early engagements, and that's exactly what won it for them. You know, just some great team play. They had so much, as you mentioned, both engage and counter-engage, so every time Direwolves tried to pull something off, Order just managed to flip it on its head, and they just pushed their lead early enough that they just didn't leave any room for Direwolves to get back into the game.
Well, the beginning of the end was just level 6 cap on Vengeance when they tried to start the Dragon up. That was Direwolves, and they kind of just got that lead and absolutely ran with it. And most of the plays Order made from that point out were like a little reactionary to what Direwolves were doing. But, you know, with the composition that they have, the Galio ult to cheat tempo, as well as the Lilia sleeps to just, that were absolutely smurfing, landing, you know, 2 to 3, 4-man Lilia sleeps. It was just a little bit too hard for Direwolves to win at that point.
Yeah, big praise, Juice, obviously, for Vengeance, you know, as one of the #1 junglers coming through from the OPL days. Hopefully Vengeance is going to feel pretty happy after, you know, hearing you talk so kindly about him. But, look, Lilia is one champion that he's going to be able to hopefully get in the future. Question is whether he's going to be able to do this kind of performance on others. Talk about other interesting picks coming through. The Vayne, I really thought, sort of worked out for Puma as well. Didn't seem to have any problems in lane. Didn't seem to have any problems in the team fights. And like I said, it was kind of the dream scenario for Puma there. But even still, you get your comfort pick, you play it well, can't really complain, and Order come away with the win.
Well, you know, that was a very great game for me personally to watch. And look, we will bring in another loser to the table in terms of the predictions. Hey, Nat, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well. Although I might personally be a loser, I will be joined by Vengeance, who is a winner. Thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on that win. It was a very good game to watch. Talk me through it from your side and your point of view.
I mean, honestly, I just hit level 6 really quick, right? I think the Hecarim was level 4 at the time, and they just didn't expect that. They just made bad calls, and we capitalized on their mistakes. I did hear that you bet on Direwolves for the win, Nat. It's a little bit disappointing, but you know, we'll take those. So.
Yeah, look, it's safe to say I think I might have learnt my mistakes when it comes to predictions. I should vote more with the head than the heart. But let's talk about the draft a bit more, because I am interested to know a bit more about that Vayne pick, like where it came from, if you guys are really orientated to pick it a little bit more often.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Puma's just a smurf, so, you know, he can just whip out the Vayne anytime he wants, and then it's just going to go unpunished because he's going to play lane perfectly, and yeah, we just win from there, so that's literally it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we saw in this game, wasn't it? How do you think your personal playing has been compared to your expectations in the past few weeks?
The game before, obviously the Hecarim was really rough early. I managed to play well mid-game to late game, but the deficit was too hard to come back from. You know, this game, obviously the Lilia performances seem to be going really well. Enemy teams don't ban it. But no, I've got a lot of other picks up my sleeve as well, so, you know, we're really confident going forward and into Pentanet the next day.
Awesome. Well, I'll be very excited to see if we get that performance on some other champs other than Lilia. And thank you so much, and congratulations again on the win.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. Great interview again, and of course, Vengeance also knowing and letting you know that you're not a believer, Nat. So I hope it's comfortable down on the sidelines knowing what you've done.
Yeah, he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that I was not picking the right team today.
Not us, just you. Just you.
Yeah, he's like, Jubes, Elfish, I don't really care. But Nat, man, she's got to come around to the Order side.
Yeah, of course. And look, you know, congratulations on a successful interview with your internet staying up for 2 whole interviews today. So we'll keep a tally.
Already better than yesterday.
2 from 2 so far, so I'll write that down. 2 from 2. Well, actually, we're at 11 from 11 because I did it in like Roman numerals, but you know.
Someone needs to take your pen and paper away. You're doing arts and crafts while we're trying to get through a broadcast. That's 2 days in a row now.
This is serious, man. You know we get paid for this, right?
Things down. I'm writing things down.
Yeah.
I'm paying attention.
Milk,
and I'm trying to be as good of an analyst as I can be. Well, anyway, look, Jubes, you said it was my turn
You're even a host.
to be the analyst, so now you're the host. Take us to the break.
Yeah, well, guys, thank you for tuning in to the broadcast. We're going to take a short break, a little intermission, and we'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. Grab some popcorn, and we're going to be back.
Beats up in the air, beats there, the double mock-up, and that has gone awfully for Direwolves. Flare down now as well. It's just Shock and Cupcake trying to salvage it, and they'll get it.
Not a terrible situation, but which one do you value more? Rel goes in.
Re-engage, this time from Direwolves on the front foot, and that hasn't worked out so far. Onslaught of Shadows right on top of